Here's an illustration of some bank data downloaded from internet banking. Very sensibly, I've changed anything that could be possibly identified as real, like people's names and account numbers, etc. You can see here that what we've got is a CSV file, and that stands for comma separated values. Now, for this book and videos to be future-proof, I have to state principles. Things are likely to change over time. They are changing rapidly and improving absolutely brilliantly. And of course, people will be reading this and watching this around the world. So in other jurisdictions and countries, things no doubt work differently. But on the whole, different banks with different mechanisms will enable you increasingly to download your bank data. And the best format to choose if you're using spreadsheets is either Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Office if that's offered, or which could be .xls or .xlsx as a suffix, or more commonly .csv, which is comma separated values. It's a very handy format. It's not very sophisticated, but it's the data is small, easily downloadable, and no doubt easy for the banks to generate. So here we have a chunk of data, and it covers quite a period. It's actually 3 months worth of data, covering 97 rows, and this is how it's likely to look. And again, different banks will produce data in different formats, but I'm about to show you some of the techniques that I use to clean it up. Now, the first thing that makes sense is to select the whole spreadsheet, double click next to one of the columns, and expand the data to sensible column widths. Here you can see that there's a sort code and an account number for each of the transactions. Well, we don't really need those, so let's edit, delete those. The next thing that we ought to do really is insert some titles and a sort order column. So first of all, 3 rows for the titles. Always one below the titles, so that we can always insert information after there. So the first column is going to be sort order. Need to create the new column, sorry. First of all, we insert a column here and we call that sort order. We start with 1 and we fill down a bit further than the data. Edit, fill, series, 1 linear, 1 linear. Okay. Now we have our sort order, and well, let's correct that. Now that's going to be valuable to us because it's going to enable us to always get back to this order. And you can notice here, for instance, that the bank has handily given the running balance. That can be extremely useful. So we want to preserve that order. So I'm going to freeze the titles. And you can see that's fine. Now, let's get some number formats sorted out. Well, let's have the dates in a nice tidy format. So that's select the column, format, cells, custom, D space MMM space YY gives you recognizable, easy to read, economically sized dates. Of course, if you are American, you're going to put MMM DYY, I suppose, as in 9/11, they do their dates differently. So that's going to be date. Next is going to be type. That's the type of the transaction, and let's correct that to make it look tidy. This one is going to be description. You could call it payee, but of course there are payers and payees in bank accounts, so description's probably a better title. Here we have paid, banked, and running balance. And without any further ado, let's correct those, and let's give them a nice number format because they're all messy at the moment. So let's use my favorite format, cells, custom, space there, before the semicolon, then brackets, 0.00. We have a nice tidy looking set of numbers there. Now we need a new column because the bank has, in this case, this bank has done this. It has put the check and paying in numbers along with the other data. So let's insert a new column. and we'll call it check number. And of course it's transaction number, but one gets into these habits. Make the column width a bit more reasonable. Now, the value of the sort is going to come into play now. First of all, let's sort on the description column. And we'll sort on column E. And that puts lots of things together, including the numbers which appear at the top. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to edit, paste special values, that data there. Now I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to left correct that. In fact, we could left correct the whole column. It's more appropriate. Later on, we're going to be typing in here. We may well be, if these were checks, they're actually bankings. If they were checks, then we would be looking at the check stubs and filling in the payees. But I happen to know that this income comes from a tenant called, let's say, Miss Smith. And I happen to know that she always pays £55 and £50 a week. So I can fill those in easily. Of course, a sensible thing to do is now subsort on G with the amount. Because I actually happen to know that Miss Smith pays 55 and Mr. Jones, we'll call him, pays the £90, so that's that one. And I'm unsure what the £700 was, so we'll have to look about that one later. Now then, other uses, other sorts of cleanup come in here. The good thing about internet banking is the detail, but sometimes it's a bit over the top. For instance, company and property. Well, that's all interesting stuff, but we don't really need it. So let's chop it down just to read company and property and fill down. That's going to have the benefit of narrowing the column, because the column doesn't need to be so detailed now. And then there's some other unnecessary stuff. For instance, double spacing. Well, edit, replace each double space with a single space, replace all, until sometimes you can do that several times. If there's quadruple or 6 spaces, then it'll do several replacements before it gets to this point, and it says cannot find matching data. Say, okay, that's all right, close that one. We're happy about that one. And then here we have a space and a one. Sorry, a space and a full stop. What does the Americans call them? What do the Americans call them? Something else. So anyway, what's going on here? Replace space stop with nothing. Replace all. That's a bit neater. And now when we double click on the column, we'll find that we've got a bit more space saved. And there's other stuff here like M&S, Marks and Spencer's card, so fill that one down. Mr. Eric G. Smith, the bank has provided that in slightly different ways, but it's all the same thing. Clean him up, and so on. The next stage of carrying out an analysis, of course, is to create further columns over here and then copy and paste this information. So for instance, we could copy this chunk of information into one column and this chunk into another. We've already done our analysis. Give these columns headings names, give some totals down the bottom, and when we go back to our original order, sort on column A now, like our sort column. Now you can see that where these payments arise, they're in appropriate places.